Hi there. We're going to learn about the global economic environment, which is chapter 2 of Discuss Global Marketing. In our today's learning objective, we cover the world economy, the different regions of the world. We try to compare and contrast the economic system. We'll also be looking at the different kind of economic development in the different countries of the world. We also look at balance of payment and countries leading in export. We briefly explain exchange rate and its impact on companies' opportunity in the different parts of the world. So when we'll over time there has been economic integration, but as of today, even though we say the world is a global village and the world is the globalization is really taking place and the global firms are competing globally, which still just at 50%, and over time the world is still working to see how better they could improve on e-commerce among countries and among firms and the way they compete. Okay. This is why we have unions like the EU and the NAFTA that have kind of tried to represent their continents and the countries trade among how countries trade among themselves in those countries, such as introducing try to have less or no trade barriers among those countries in the continent which they represent. So, however, though there is a lot of advantages that comes with trading globally, okay, but this has really displaced and also absorbed local firms, because these companies, firms that try to operate in different parts of the world, they over time they have the resources and they have the experience, and they are able to do better in places where they operate, and overshadowing the local ones. So many local companies in the world and in different parts of the world where they operate, they struggle so hard to survive and to compete with this to compete globally, to compete with these companies that have been operating across borders. Then we're going to look at what are the reality of the world economy today. Today we have capital movement. It's a lot easier compared to before, and this has replaced trade as the driving force of the world economy. Then there's also production. Production has become uncoupled from employment. The world's economy, not individual country, is the dominating factor now in the world economy today. Then we also have the struggle between the capitalism and socialism, and although this struggle has been on since from 1917, okay, since after the end of the Cold War and the demise of the communism as an economy and political system. Like the economy and the political system was being that since that over time that communism is not an effective economic system. Now we're going to look at e-commerce. Okay, that's another aspect of the new reality of today. The e-commerce diminishes the importance of national barriers and forces companies to reevaluate business model. Like I'd said, the EU, they ensure that these national barriers are actually not there. They try to make as much as possible easy and free trade among member countries, and this is one thing that has actually boosted the e-commerce. At the same time, has also made many countries to let go their national barriers. And also, companies have to also reevaluate their business model. Now they have to uh, not just think globally, they also have to act locally. I hope you still remember our last class in chapter 1 of this course. A lot of companies these days, no, they do not just operate in the country where they have their branches. They try as much as possible to also incorporate some local touches into their businesses. This helps increase patronage and also try to make the people, their customers, feel that they are part of what they are doing. Okay, they are recognized, and they are also the riggers that they are recognized, and apart from that, they feel important that they are part of those companies and what they do. Now, moving on, we're going to also try to look at types of economy. uh, you know uh, we have different types of economy. We have the economies that are in industrial state, and some emerging or transition economy, or some are developing country. Also, in our last chapter, which is chapter 1 of this course, we made mention of different status of countries in terms of economic development, where we mentioned about the BRICS economy and the MIP. Okay, those other countries over time, though they 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 have firms have been trying to go global, and they be operating in those places, but then some economy are very promising, and the type of economy which are being operated there also determines how these companies are able to open and operate there. Okay, so first of all, things that actually zero on economic systems are, you have to know if these countries are in advanced industrial state, or are they emerging, or are they transitional, I mean, are they transiting economy, or they are developing nature. However, uh, whatever the stage or level which these countries are in their economical status, it has also been so difficult economies uh, for economies to be pinpoint in the four cell matrix because of globalization. This globalization has really made it harder. And so you can't really say what exactly, or you can't really pigeonhole economies within the four cell matrix. This is because both the economies and the firms that intend to operate there based on globalization, they all have to make adjustments to accommodate one another. And this is, like I said, this is like these are official duties of those unions I've already mentioned, like the EU, NAFTA, and ECOWAS. Okay, ECOWAS is representing Africa continent. Now we're going to look at other aspects, which is the type of government. Is it monarchy? Is it dictatorship? Is it tyrant? Okay. Is it one party system? Is it dominated by another state democracy? Is it a terrorist country? All of these are things that determines the economic system. Then also we also have trade and capital flows, which has to do with free trade, part of trading blocks, currency board or exchange control. So we have to know if the nation is characterized by these mentions, and also the commanding heights. Okay, when we talk about the commanding heights, we are looking at the aspect of transportation, the communication and energy sector. Is it state, private, or mixed ownership? Because all of these determine the economic system, because over time, when all of these infrastructures are present, countries tend to do better. They spend less cost in production and make the production processes or operations a lot easier compared to countries that do not have all of this. And it's also very important for this. It's also important for globalization too, because when we come to globalization, countries going globally, they look at all of these factors, okay, the economic system, all of these factors of the economic system, before they decide where and when they should operate their businesses. Then the other aspects, such as the services, what kind of services is provided by the state or state funded, pensions, healthcare, education, anything that has to do with social welfare, all of these are also considered. Then in the institutions, is a country characterized by transparency? Do they have standard? Is there corruption? Okay. Is there standards that are ignored? Are the people abused? Are the people denied of all of this? Is the cost system well operated, or is it compromised? Then, if you're going to look at the market, you also look at the aspect of entrepreneurship. Is it high or low? Is it very risky? Is it rewarding? Is it a socialized market? Is it government-dominated price and wage control? Is it a private, or is it a mixed kind of operation, where both the public and the private, they come together to operate together? So all of these are aspects that has to be considered. Now we're going to look at the economic system. Okay, first we have the market capitalism, we have the market socialism, we have the centrally planned capitalism, and we have the planned socialism. This is divided into 4 quadrants, and it indicates how resources are owned, allocated, okay, in an economic system. It's very, very important. It's actually the resource ownership and who owns and how it is allocated. So, like in most countries, the resource allocation and resource ownership is dominated by the private sector more than the state. And in some parts of the world, in some countries, the state dominates in the resource ownership and resource allocation, and some is like a mixed kind of method where both the state and the resource ownership, both the state, both the private and the state, they have controlled command over it. Then we're going to look at each aspect of it, which is the market capitalism, the centrally planned capitalism, the market socialism, and centrally planned socialism. Okay, these are the notes for these slides. You actually read on your own to process and digest after listening to all of this explanation. Now we have the market capitalism, which consists of individuals and firms allocate resources, okay, and production resources are privately owned, and this is production is driven by profit making. Okay, this is one of the challenges of this. In the market capitalism, production, there's most times it's driven by consumers. Okay, consumers demand, and government's role is to promote competition among firms and ensure consumers protection. And if the production resources are because the production resources are private, most times is driven by the consumer's demand and the expected returns on the production. If it's kind of production that will not give them huge turnover, there's the private sector is likely to show little or no interest in it. Example, the US is characterized by its competitive free-for-all and decentralized initiative. Japan is sometimes called Japan in corruption because has a tightly run, highly regulated economic system that is also market oriented. So for market capitalism, it's practiced around the world, mostly by the Western Europe and the North America. Okay. It has its pros and cons, and sometimes the percentage, okay, though it's a market capitalism, it means that the individuals and firms allocate resources, the percentage is higher compared to the government allocating the resources. Then we're going to look at the Western market system. Okay, like the type of system, we have the Anglo-Saxon model, we have the social market model, and we have the Nordic model. Okay, the Nordic model is operated by the Sweden and the Norway, and the social market economy model is adopted by the Germany, France, and Italy, and the Anglo-Saxon model is adopted by the United States, Canada, and Great Britain. Though they are all market system, but these are the types of market system. For the Anglo-Saxon model, the private ownership is free enterprise economy, capitalism, okay, minimal social safety, and is highly flexible for employment policies. Okay, then it also have what are the key characteristics of a social market economy. This one is different from the Anglo-Saxon model. For this social market economy model, we have the private ownership, okay, that means social partners, okay. Then we have orientation that includes employer groups, unions and banks, unions and corporation, and these unions are involved with government, and they have inflexible, the employment policies are very inflexible compared to the flexible employment policies of the Anglo-Saxon model. Then we have the Nordic model. Okay, the Nordic model is mix of state ownership and private ownership, and it has high taxes, then some market regulation here and there. Then it's a general social safety net. Now, looking at the centrally planned socialism, which is this slide, so we've talked about the market capitalism. Now we're going to look at the centrally planned capitalism. Now, what does the centrally planned what does this entail? The centrally planned socialism, okay. Centrally planned socialism. Okay, this one, centrally planned socialism. So we're going to look at what it entails. It is opposite of market capitalism. It states holds broad powers to serve the public interest. Okay, it decides what goods and services are produced and in what quantities. Okay, and consumers can spend only what is available. Government owns entire industry and controls distribution. Demand is typically exceeds supply. Little reliance on product differentiation and advertising pricing strategy. The countries which adopt these styles are China, okay, India, and the former users are now moving towards some market allocation and private ownership. That is for the USSR. So continuing our lectures, we're going to look at the centrally planned capitalism. This one do not actually exist in pure form. It actually has a mix of this here and there. That is the market capitalism and centrally planned socialism do not exist in pure form. Okay, in most countries, like I had mentioned, to some extent, the resources allocation and resource control are simultaneously done by both the state and the private. Okay, The role of government in modern market economies varies widely. This depends on the country. Some they play very huge role, and some they do not. They don't so much. Though they interfere, but in a very small way. They interfere, not so much. Then we're going to look at. Let's see this slide. Okay, we're going to look at stages of market development. For the BERMs, we have, these are identified 10 years ago. These are countries in Central Europe, okay, the Latin America, Asia that were to have rapid economic growth. This is one group. Then we have another group that are called the BRICS. This consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Then we also have the rank economic freedom. Sorry, let's look at BRICS. I think we also have the MINF, okay, the MINF countries. Then I think in chapter 1 of this course we talked about those other group. Then let's move on. In this we're going to look at economic freedom. Economic freedom means mostly free, okay, mostly it's not totally 100% freedom, okay. So economic freedom variables consist of trade policy, taxation policy, capital flows and foreign investment, banking policy, wage and price control, property rights, and black markets. So we have economic freedom, which is mostly free. Then we have mostly unfree and repressed. Variable considered include such as this I have mentioned, and this variable determines how they are how these variables are, how the government kind of set rules. They regulate what they say about. They use these variables to regulate the market, and how they use it determines whether these economies are free or not. Okay. Now we're going to the next slide. We have going to look at economic freedom 2017 rankings of different countries. Free countries, we won't say they are very free. There are countries like Hong Kong, Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, and Switzerland. Then we have mostly free. Mostly free are countries like Estonia, Canada, United Arab Emirates, Ireland, Chile, and United States. And you still remember when we talked about the North American countries, we say though they operate the Western market system, and the type of system in the Western market system is the Anglo-Saxon model. And this we also mentioned that in this economy they have minimal social safety net and is highly flexible for employment policies, okay. Then so these countries with the kind of market system they kind of adopted, these countries are in the economic freedom ranking, they are considered as mostly free, like the Canada, United States, then the Ireland, and the United Arab Emirates. Now we are going to look at the repressed countries. We have countries like the North Korea, we have Venezuela, Cuba, Republic of Congo, we have Djibouti, Algeria, and Timor-Leste, Equatorial Guinea. All of these countries are repressed. There are some countries that are not even ranked, like those countries where they are experiencing war now, or they are having some unrest in these countries are not ranked. Then moving on, we're going to look at low income countries. Okay, when we talk about low income, we are trying to look at the GNI, gross national income per capita, okay, of $1,005 or less. Now How do you know low income in country? What are the characteristics of looking at this? Is the limited industrialization. Countries with limited industrialization, they will definitely have low income because they have a lot. This type of countries have few industries and a lot of human capital. I mean, they have kind of human resources, and hence the companies, the industries are not there to absorb them all, and hence we are a lot of countries that has this in human capital available for them. They tend to have very low income. Okay, many of them, well, not all, but in because we have labor, so much labor, and yet no industry to kind of to absorb this labor or maximize them. Okay, so in countries like this, you see the companies, they capitalize on this and pay people. Okay, there's high supply of labor, and as there will be very the demand for it is not very competitive, hence they tend to pay people little money because they have so much. And if you're not willing to accept what they are ready to offer, you probably be let go. And they have options, they have lots of they have high supply of the labor. Okay, then there's high percentage of population in farming. This kind of country, they have high population of farming. Okay, there's high birth rates. Okay, there's low literacy rates. Okay, many of these jobs many of these people, they cannot do high skilled jobs that comes with high pay. So they also have heavy reliance on foreign aid, political instability and unrest, and these type of countries are mostly concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa. So when a country has all of these characteristics, there's very high tendency that their GNI is low or even less. When you say low, it's to be specific, it's less than 1,005 $1,005. Now we're going to look at the lower middle income countries. Okay. This is GNI per capita of 1,006 to 3,955. Okay. Now, what are the characteristics of low middle income countries? They are rapidly expanding consumer markets. They have cheap motivated labor. They mature standardized labor intensive industries like footwear, textile and toys. There is a 50 bottom rank countries are LDCs, least developed countries. India is the only BRICS nation. India is the only BRICS nation that actually has okay. India is fast developing compared to the other BRICS nation. India and Brazil are the fast developing lower middle income countries in the BRICS nations. Then we have the Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. They have the opportunity for economic growth, and over time they hopefully they will try to probably be among the lower middle income country. Now, if you look at, for example, Brazil, let's talk about Brazil. Brazil is the largest country in the Latin America in terms of the size of its economy, population, and geographic territory. And Brazil also boasts the richest reserve of natural resources in the hemisphere. And it trades a lot with China. Okay, China is among the BRICS nation, and also over time, Brazil GNI grew steadily between 2003 and 2013. During the same time period, tens of millions of Brazilians joined the middle class as income and living standards have risen. Income definitely, when income increases, then the standard of living also increases. Now, so we're going to look at the upper middle income countries. The upper middle income countries, they have GNP per capita of 3,9356 to 12,235. The characteristics are they are very industrialized or rapidly industrialized, okay, or rapidly industrializing. They have less agricultural employment. Why? Because they use mechanized equipment, okay, and when they are capital, these machines are capital intensive, and but though its production is high, because this machine works faster, better than humans compared to the low income countries where they do agriculture but they still do this manually with human capital. Compared to this, everything is about automated machines, so production is very high. Then rapidly industrially, less agricultural employment, so they don't really employ human capital. I mean, just one person that can operate the machine can do a lot compared to employing 50, 100 people that will even do less than using the machine to work in the farms, okay. They have increasing urbanization, they have rising wages, there's high literacy rates and advanced education, there's lower wage costs than advanced country, and countries like Brazil, Russia, China, South Africa, they are approaching this upper middle income countries. If you can say China and Brazil are already there compared to South Africa. Then Russia, presently we understand what is we are very aware of what is happening in Russia. Then we're going to look at the newly industrialized economy, which are the NERs, okay. Then for the NERs, they are lower, middle, and upper income economies with higher sustained rates of economic growth. They have greater industrial output than developing economies, export of manufactured and refined products. They are N11, a new country grouping identified by Goldman Sachs. These countries are Egypt, Indonesia, Philippines, Mexico, and Turkey. Now we're going to look at BOP, which is the buying power of poor communities. For example, in Bangladesh, okay, villagers spend considerable sums to use village phones operated by local entrepreneurs, okay. Then the poor have no money, okay, so sometimes the money they have is just for them to feed, to meet with their needs, feeding and medical care and probably shelter. And then the poor are too concerned with basic needs to waste money on essential goods. Entry developing market is fruitless because goods there are too cheap to make a profit. When goods are too cheap, the profit margin becomes very small or probably nothing to make out of it. People in POP, in bottom of the pyramid, okay, countries cannot use technology. They are illiterate about it, or they probably not be able to be well aware, informed about this technology. Then we have global companies doing business in POP. Countries will be criticized for exploiting the poor, like what is happening in France today and in Bangladesh. Both the France and Bangladesh, the France fashion homes, they actually have their factories in Bangladesh because of the huge population there that can actually make clothes for them, for their fashion brands in France. So over time there has been criticism about this, that the France, they exploit the poor, they use them to make products, clothing that they sell in thousands of dollars, and yet they pay these tailors the fashion design, the fashion, the tailors, people who sew the clothes, the sew mistress, that they pay them peanut from what they are making. So these are the issues. Then we have high income countries. High income countries, uh, they can earn up to like 12,236 or more, also known as advanced, developed, industrialized, or post-industrial countries. They have economic growth through discipline innovations. Okay, they have built system over time, things are well regulated. Okay, then they also have extremely high ownership levels of basic products. They do not just try to meet up with their needs. They've also grown to the extent that they enjoy, want what they want to enjoy. They just enjoy what they want to enjoy, such as holiday, luxuries, and stuff like that. They seek a lot of good services. Okay, and they enjoy all of this because they have the fund finances, because their income is high, so they are able to go for their wants and do whatever they enjoy doing. Then we're going to look at they are well informed. Okay, they are well informed, they are future oriented, and they have they prioritize interpersonal relationship. Then they have ascendancy of knowledge over capital, intellectual over machine technology, scientists and professional over engineers and semi-skilled workers. Now we're going to look at the G7, the Group 7. You've heard about the G7, right? Now the G7 are the goal of global economic stability and prosperity. Their goal is to meet up with the goal of the global economic stability and prosperity. And the countries in the G7 are US, Japan, Germany, France, Britain, Canada, and Italy. Okay. We're going to look at the Russian membership. Okay. Russia joined in 1998, changing the group to G8, but its membership was suspended in 2014 after it annexed the Crimean Peninsula. Okay. It remains a member of the G20. Russia is still also part of the G20, but the country was suspended from the G7. It was initially G8 when it was part of it, but later it was the country Russia was suspended. Now we're going to look at the G20 group. This was established in 1999. The countries in the G20 are Argentina, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Turkey. Then also Russia. Okay, and we also look at the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. This consists of 35 nations, and Canada, US, and Japan. All Canada and Japan and US are part of these countries. They promote economic growth and social well-being. They focus on world trade, global issues, and labor market deregulation, and also try to look at anti-bribery conventions. They also organize anti-bribery conventions. And then the percentage of potential buyers or households who own a product, and they also look at other aspects of economic development. Then we're going to look at balance of payment. The balance of payment is divided into okay, before balance of payment, we're going to look at record of economic transactions between the residents of the country and the rest of the world. For economic transaction, we have what they call the current account, we have the capital account, and the current account records all recurring trade in merchandise and service and humanitarian aid. It also records trade deficit negative, so that's why we can have negative current account, and for trade surplus we have the positive current account. Then we also have the capital account, which record all long-term direct investment, portfolio investment, and capital flow. These are top exporters and importers in the world merchandise trade. The leading exporters are China, United States, Germany, Japan, and Netherlands. And they are leading importers. For China, we have United States. Then for United States, we have China. Then we have we have Germany, okay, Japan, and we have Netherlands. For exporting, both China and United States, they export the most, and also they import the most. Then for Netherlands, it's among the leading exporter, but not among the leading importers. Then we're going to look at foreign exchange. We're going to look at international finance, and we look at foreign exchange. Foreign exchange allows companies to do business globally with different currencies. It also allow easy trade, okay, easy trade among countries. Now, exchange risk occurs when the value of a currency changes as it is traded. We also have what they call spot market, and this is immediate delivery. Then we have forward market, which is for future delivery. Then we have currency market. Participants include countries, central banks, and companies that convert foreign currency into their home currency, and currency speculators. In international finance, we also have what they call devaluation, mercantilism or competitive currency policies, and we also have revaluation. Now, what are the foreign exchange market dynamics? The dynamics has to do with supply and demand interaction, which means which entails country sells, like for example, when the country sells more goods and services than it buys, okay, there are some countries that actually have that. Then there is a greater demand for the currency, then the currency will appreciate in value, because it's like the more a country exports, means it's selling, the better and richer the economy of the country becomes. And when the country imports more, it's losing money, okay, and this will affect its currency, and to be devalued. It will devalue, because the country, it's highly dependent on other countries to survive. However, if the importation of the country is solely for production purposes, the country is able to meet up, because after importing for production purpose, the country will be able to produce these goods or service, and export and sell. Hence, it's able to cover for what he had. When it comes to trading, you try to, in your pricing, you try to cover up the margin. Okay? You try to cover up the margin of making profit. The selling price will definitely be higher than what you've used for the production cost. So if a country is though the country is importing, like in the case of China and US, they import a lot because they are among the leading importers. But then you will not say they are poor countries, right? So this is because most of the things they probably are importing is for production purpose, and this they are able to meet and cover up with their exportation. different from a country that only imports for consumption, they not for production purposes. Such country will have problem. There is going to have a currency depreciation, and is going to be and there won't be greater demand for its currency in most cases. Then let's look at managing economic exposure. Economic exposure refers to the impact of currency fluctuation on the present value of the company's financial performance. When sales, this occurs when sales are in a foreign currency. Like for example, when we sell in foreign currency, like dollar, okay. Like for example, Nestle generates 98% of sales outside its own country, and Eurozone companies like GlaxoSmithKline and the others, they also generate a lot from their companies, okay, their branches outside the USA, their home countries. Now we're going to look at how to manage economic exposure. You can manage economic exposure by hedging, okay, and by forward contracts. Hedging exchange rate exposure involves establishing and offsetting currency position such that the loss or gain of one currency position is offset by a corresponding gain or loss in some other currency. This is a very common practice among global companies, that sell products and maintain operations in different countries. Like for example, the Porsche relies on currency hedging rather than price increase to boost its profits on sales of its automobiles. Then we'll look at forward. Let's look at forward. Forward contracts sets the price of the exchange rate at some point in the future to eliminate some risk. So that is end of today's class, and thank you for your time.